Why Not? Episode 1. I would tell you why I don't believe in love, Mark said, starting a brand new topic as if joining an already existing one. None of his old friends were going to fall for the bait. They all knew how that particular story goes. All except Chanda. He did not know Mark, nor did he know how sociopathic the handsome gentleman could be. He thought the introduction was fascinating. Chanda looked around, wondering who was going to prompt Mark to tell them his thoughts on such a rarely discussed topic in men's circles. To Chanda's left were two guys, both dark-skinned and quite lean. Neither of them was moved by Mark's lure. Chanda looked to his right. He found Mark looking right at him. He quickly averted the piercing eyes and looked straight ahead. There was a chubby, light-skinned guy. He seemed uninterested. After a brief consideration of the man, Chanda noticed something quite alarming. The chubby, light-skinned man did not just seem uninterested in the topic that Mark wanted to slip into their small circle. He seemed uninterested in everything, in life, in smiling. Chanda looked in Mark's direction again. This time, Mark wasn't looking at him. He had received a text message and was fiddling with his smartphone. He seemed like he was an interesting character, very neat, from head to toes. He was the best looking in the group. He had a stocky build, fair skin, and clothes that looked like they left the boutique together and could not be better matched. Chanda looked at himself. For a second, he felt bad about how he looked. As a typical unemployed man in his mid-20s, he didn't have much need to dress to impress. Even if he wanted, though, he could not afford it. Mark was dressed like someone who made 5 figures every month. Okay, what have we come up with? The instructor's voice sent Chanda's thoughts scattering about. He looked up at the instructor. They locked eyes. Chanda looked away. Why do you run away easily, boy? The instructor said, staring at Chanda. Run away? The timid man said, after a short, reflective pause. I don't run away, sir. Do me a favor. If you choose to lie to me, make me believe it, the instructor said. He had a coldness about him. It was no wonder he was nicknamed Commander. He spoke in a loud voice, and over 80% of the things he said were instructions. He was truly an instrument of instructions. Chanda swallowed hard. He slowly raised his head and found those soulless eyes fixed on him. He looked into the eyes of the instructor. He had heard a few years ago that if you stare into someone's eyes for a few seconds, you start to connect with them. He cringed at the very idea of connecting with a cold man who was now towering over him in the middle of the circle. Suddenly, the small gathering seemed huge. The chairs to his left and right had drifted further away from him. It was as if everyone had backed away and left Chanda to deal with the big bad wolf all by himself. He was sweating. You know what your problem is, the instructor said, still looking straight at Chanda. For all Chanda knew, the man could have been looking at his soul, and his next words somehow confirmed his suspicion. You are small, not on the outside, but on the inside. You do not know your place, and so you look for the empty space available and find a way to fit in that space, no matter how bad it is. Chanda felt every cold, deliberate word. He had only met the instructor earlier that day when registering for the class. The chat they had was too short to have given such deep insights into him. But how did he know? Who was this man? Chanda took a deep breath. He wanted to speak, but something was holding his tongue and words. He opened his mouth. He needed to prove himself. This was the point of this class after all. But no words left Chanda's lips. The instructor then did something rather uncharacteristic. The instructor took a step forward. He put his hand on Chanda's shoulder and very calmly and assuringly said, For most of my life, I was just like you, thrown about by those more powerful and more capable. Then I became him, he pointed at Mark, who had been watching the whole saga from his seat. But after realizing that power was not how much fear we can instill in others, I discovered who I was and worked hard to become that person. You are not weak and small. You are a blank canvas, and I will teach you how to paint your life into a masterpiece. Chanda had never felt more understood and cared for. The feel of a warm, friendly hand on his shoulder made the moment even more special. So, why did you run away, friend? The instructor said, with just as much warmth but twice the emphasis. I was scared. The words just left Chanda's lips, the unpolished and apologetic truth. He felt lighter and stronger. What you fear isn't what is in front of you, but what is lacking inside of you. Do not run away and hide. Just find what you think you lack. Because more often than not, you have it hidden somewhere. But if you hide too, nobody will search for it. And you will live your entire life thinking you are smaller than people who oppress you because they know they are smaller than you. The instructor had turned into a loving coach. He was not an instrument anymore. He was an ally, a confidant. In that moment, Chanda had found the answer to a question he had earlier been asked. Why are you going to a man who get your money to teach you how to be more confident? And Chanda's answer was simple and clear. It's a pity he could not go back in time to give it. Because instead of pretending to be smart and trying to convince someone who was just belittling him, he would have said, why am I going to this man? Well, why not? End of episode 1.